Have you ever set your alarm for 5 in the morning? Full of conviction? Certain that tomorrow would be different? Only to wake up behind? Maybe you have told yourself you are simply not built for mornings. Maybe you have tried it once, twice, 10 times, but the covers always win. Maybe you have stood in the bathroom mirror at noon and felt that quiet shame, not the loud kind, but the cold kind that settles into your chest and stays. Maybe you have wondered whether the life you imagined for yourself is simply not meant for someone like you. That specific, quiet fear. This is not a motivational speech. It is the true account of what happens when one decision, made in grief, changes absolutely everything. This is the story of Elias. Stay with me until the end, because what comes next might be the alarm you have been waiting for. Elias Mora was 31 years old, and he had held the same data entry position for 6 years, $940 a month, after tax. His apartment was on the 4th floor of a building that smelled of mildew in winter and cooking oil in summer. A mattress on the floor, a cracked lamp. Every morning he woke at 7:52, not by choice, but because that was the absolute last moment before he had to move. 4 minutes to shower. He rode the bus with his forehead against the cold window, eyes half open, already counting the hours until he could come home and lie down again. At lunch, he sat alone in the break room and scrolled his phone with the hollow focus of a man filling time rather than living it. He was not depressed. What he felt was different. A flatness. A sense that his life was happening around him rather than through him. Just flatness. He had wanted to learn web development. He had started the course twice and abandoned it before the 3rd week. He always told himself he was tired. The one person who could still reach him was his sister Camila, who called every Sunday. She never pushed. She just asked how he was. Every Sunday, Elias said, "I'm fine. I'm working on some things," in the tone of a man who had been saying the same sentence so long. It had lost all meaning. He had ideas once. A course bookmarked for 8 months without opening. A skill he said he would learn. A life he said he would build. Always soon. Every evening he rode home, ate something from a bag, and spent 3 hours in a dim fog of television until sleep took him around 1 in the morning. He worked hard. He had always worked hard. But hard work alone changes nothing when the work is going nowhere. That was the trap he could not name. 6 years, the same desk, the same bus, the same ceiling, a man who worked hard and still moved nowhere. That was the life. That was the trap. Something in him still believed in a different life. The thought kept returning like a whisper he couldn't silence. There has to be another way. But what? It was a Tuesday evening in late October when the call came. Elias was on his mattress, eating rice, watching a video of a man who had built everything from nothing. His screen lit up with Camila's name. She never called on Tuesdays. He answered, and she was already crying before she finished the first sentence. 31 years old, alone on a mattress on the floor. Rice spilled on the comforter. Nothing built. Nothing finished. His father in a hospital bed. He drove through the night. When he arrived at the hospital, his father was stable. A mild attack, the doctor said. The kind the body sends as a warning. He sat in the hospital room a long time. Then he stepped outside into the pre-dawn darkness and looked at his hands and made a decision. No more. He said it quietly into the empty dark. No more. Not a shout. Not a performance. A decision made in the cold, in private, with no one watching. On the second morning, he went to the hospital cafeteria at 5:15 because he couldn't sleep. He was the only one there, except for an older man by the window. The man glanced up and said not unkindly, "You look like someone who hasn't slept in years." Elias almost said he was fine. Instead, he told the truth. Raymond introduced himself, a retired engineer. He came to this cafeteria at 5 in the morning 3 times a week, not for the coffee, but for the silence. I spent 20 years arriving at my office at 8:30, Raymond said, and leaving with nothing accomplished that mattered. Then I started waking at 5. I gave myself 2 hours before the world made demands. First hour, I learned something. Second hour, I applied it. That was it. No secret, just those 2 hours. And that changed things? Elias asked. Raymond paused. The real change was that I stopped feeling like my life was happening to me. Those 2 hours belonged to no one. How do you get up when your body refuses? Elias asked. Raymond looked at him evenly. You decide the night before. You decide once. Then you just execute. He tore a page from his notebook and wrote 2 lines. He slid it across the table. Hour 1. Learn 1 skill. Hour 2. Move, read, plan, 90 days. 90 days, Raymond said. Not 60. Nenwilan. Not 60. Not 30. 90. Eiffel. Miss 1, and restart the count. He looked at Elias steadily. Can you do that? Elias looked at the torn page. He said, I don't know. Raymond smiled. That's the most honest answer anyone has ever given me. And they sat in the quiet. The first morning, the alarm went off at 5, and his entire body responded as though the sound were a physical attack. He lay still for 90 seconds. He threw the blanket off before he finished the thought. He heard his father's face in the hospital. He remembered the rice spilled on the comforter. He stood. He sat at the cracked shade desk with his laptop and opened the course he had bookmarked 8 months ago without ever looking at. His eyes burned. He did not stop. At 6, he put on his shoes and walked around the block twice in the cold dark. His breath misted the air. He felt ridiculous and exhausted and also, underneath, alive. The first week was agony. Each morning his mind built a flawless case for staying in bed. Every argument was reasonable. Every excuse was real. He ignored all of them. On day 7, his hands nearly reached for his phone first. He held it for 11 seconds. Then he set it face down and opened the laptop, the closest he came to quitting. He set the phone face down on the desk. He opened the laptop. That ain't your mind him laptop. He stayed in the chair for the full hour. That was the hardest morning, and he won it. By the end of week 2, the course began to make sense. Patterns emerged in the code. He completed his first full exercise without having to restart. Small, real, dial, his. On day 21st, he woke at 4:58, 2 minutes before the alarm. His body had adapted. He lay there in the dark and for the first time, felt ready. He had built his first responsive web page, basic, imperfect, entirely his. He sat looking at it in the amber lamplight at 6:40 in the morning and felt something rare. The morning walks had grown into 30-minute runs. His sleep was deeper. People at work noticed. He was more present, more direct, less apologetic in how he carried himself. Thomas, you look different, a coworker said. Healthier. What changed? He smiled a quiet smile and said, I'm changing my life 2 hours at a time. By the end of month 2, he had completed the web development certification he had started and abandoned twice before. The same course, a different person sitting in the chair. He had lost 11 pounds from the daily morning runs. His sleep was deep for the first time in years. People noticed without being able to say exactly what had changed. In the 3rd month, he began building a portfolio in his morning hours. On day 84, he wrote a cold application to a small digital agency 3 blocks from his office. They called him back in 4 days. By day 93, he had a job offer as a junior front-end developer. Archie, 60% more than his logistics salary. He called his sister from the agency parking lot, standing in the cold. She started crying before he finished the sentence. He stood there a long time after hanging up. He stood looking at nothing in particular. The street, the cars, the ordinary gray morning, and felt, for the first time in 6 years, like he was standing inside his own life. The discipline that had felt like punishment in week 1 had become the structure that held everything else up. The alarm was not an enemy anymore. It was a door. The difference between where he was and where he now stood was not talent, not luck, not connection. It was 2 hours, used every day, before the world woke up. His coworkers would ask, "Why do you wake so early? You've already succeeded." And he would smile and say, "Success is not a destination. It's a daily practice." He drove home that evening and sat at his desk. He opened his laptop at 9:45, the earliest he had ever slept before in his adult life. This is who I am now. My mornings are not negotiable. I don't explain them. I don't postpone them. This is just what I do. He closed the laptop. He slept. The alarm was set. The decision was made. The person who would wake at 5 was already decided. He was not waiting for motivation. He was the practice. The distance between where you are and where you want to be is not talent, not luck, not circumstance. It is 2 hours, used before the world tells you who to be. Step 1. Tonight, set your alarm for exactly 5 o'clock. Put your phone across the room. You decide now, not in the morning. Decide once. Then execute. Step 2. Choose one skill, one thing that changes your trajectory. Open it at 5 and do not touch anything else for 60 minutes. 90 days. Not 60, 90. Step 3. Protect 10 o'clock as your bedtime. The scrolling can wait. Your future cannot. 90 mornings from now, you will not recognize the person you are today. Your 5 o'clock is tomorrow. Drop day 1 in the comments. Your future self is waiting. Don't make them wait another day. Will you be awake?